think the last question that I had was to the witness, what is it that was in the statements of the witnesses who were in the house which made you to say that their statements were questionable and there was an objection? And then I think soon after the objection, then we were to adjourn for a short adjournment, for a short break. I'm not so sure whether should I then proceed from there.
Should I answer? He's asking the court. Yes,
we waiting for a directive from the court. I'm asking the court whether
yes.
Should I then proceed from there or not.
That's how it is.
Yes, proceed.
As it pleases the court. And then immediately after saying, Brigadier, that the statements of those people who were in the house were questionable, you went on to say you were not sure whether they were telling the truth or not. Now, back to the main question. What is it that you found in their statements which made you to say that the statements were questionable and that you were not sure whether they were telling the truth or not?
My Lord, I've answered this question and I'll answer it again. I did not read the statements and find questionable utterances in the statement. I simply said there was an allegation. And I'll try to explain it again, my Lord. There was this allegation that seems to suggest that there were no intruders, which would have meant that the people who were in the house, when they say they were intruders, you can't sugarcoat it, my Lord. It simply will mean they were misleading when they were saying that. That was the inference that I drew, at least myself. So when I say the statements were questionable, it is in that regard, not on the context that were contained. My view was that because there seems to be a dark cloud, and I'm repeating this part, my Lord, regarding the people who were in the house, let me park their statements and try and look at objective evidence to find either evidence that supports that there were people in the house or that discredits that part. That is in that regard, my Lord. And I didn't say there was something that I read and out of that then I cancel or find things that were not reliable. That's not what I've said, my Lord.
Engikushilo ngizokuphinda ke lokho ngoba lo mbuzo lana nguphendulileke ukuthi ke ngoba ke kwakunale insolo lezi ezazithi ke cha babengekho abantu abangena ngaleli langa laphana endlini. Lokho ke akukho ukuthi ke ungakulungiselela ke uma ukusho uzokusha nje njengoba kunjalo ukusho ukuthi ke manje uma abantu ababesendlini bethi kunabantu abangena uma kunalezi insolo lezi lokho kusho ukuthi ke bayakhohlisa ke noma baqamba amanga ke labo bantu. Yingakho ke ngathi ke lokho abakushoyo bona angeke ngimeke ke ngibheke obunye ubufakazi ukuthi kukhona yini ubufakazi obuhambisana nalento abayishoyo ukuthi ngempela bakhona abantu abangena, hayi ukuthi ngafunda abakushoyo ngase ngithi cha la baqamba amanga. Kwakungasikona lokho kodwa ngenxa yeinsolo ezazikhona.
Yes, that's my answer, my Lord.
You know, without laboring this point, I'm going to ask it for the last time. Why do you say their statements were questionable?
My Lord, I've answered again. And I don't know how many times I've said this question. And I've dealt with this, my Lord, even during my evidence in chief, that there was a cold case analysis. I had to analyze. I've explained it. This is not a new answer, my Lord. I've explained that the first point of departure was to find a direction as to whether they were intruders or not in order to formulate the investigation plan. In other words, we are pursuing the people who are in the house or the alleged perpetrators. There was no something untoward that I found in the statement. I'm simply saying this part was questionable, and the other part, my Lord, that I referred to when I said long way, I think I dealt with this part, that even what made me to look at his vehicle movement, his cell phone, is because in this allegation it was said that he was a possible shooter. So I needed to see if I can place him together with the others, or at least with a phone that went to a different direction in the event that he was a shooter. So I even used the term, my Lord, that it was a fact-finding mission, not that I've analyzed each and every statement and found that it was concerning or untruth. I've never said that even in my evidence in chief, my lord.
Uphendule lo mbuzo ngizophendula ke futhi ukuthi lana bangasikona ngoba ke kunalezi insolo ezazikhona ke okunye futhi na ingakho ngikhulumile nangaye ulongwe ukuthi ke ezinye insolo zazithi ke ulongwe uyena ke owadubula kwakubheka ukuthi nanjengoba khona kunalo makhala okukhwini ke owahamba kolunye uhlangothi ukuthi kwakungakhoba khona yini ukuthi ke ngumhlanganiso noma ke naye atholakala kuleyo ndawo makhala okukhwini awaye kuyona ke ingakho ngishilo ukuthi ke inhloso kwakuwukuthola iqiniso kwaye futhi ke kwakufanele nokuthi ke ngicwaningeke noma ke ubufakazi ke ukuze ngizokwazi ukuthi ke benale plan enginayo yokuthi ngiqhubeke ngalo uphenyo.
So if perhaps, my lord, my response is understood to be saying, when I read their statements, this is now the people who are in the house, I found it unreliable or unquestionable. That's not what I meant. I simply said because there was this cloud, this allegation that there were no intruders, I parked them because I felt if I look there and rely on that, I may be contaminated in an answer that I need to find as to whether they were intruders or not.
Futhi ke uma kuukuthi impendulo yami izwakaleke ngenye indlela ke mina ke uma bengithi ke bekukhona ke ungabazi ukukhona ke bengithi ke ngoba ke manje kunalokhu okukhulunywayo noma le insolo ekhulunywayo ke ake ngimeke ukuthi ke ngibheke ukuthi bona bathini kodwa ke ngibheke nakolunye ke futhi uhlangothi ngoba uma ngizobheka kubona ke kuphela ke ngenzeka ke ukuthi ke kube nomthelela obakhona ke ingakho sengibheke nakolunye uhlangothi noma istatement zabanye.
That's my answer, my lord.
Thank you. Now, having gone through the statement of the witnesses of the people who were in the house, is there a time when you went to interview them regarding the content of their statements that you found in the docket that you inherited?
So to understand, my lord, is this now after I've formed a decision that they were intruders and now running with the investigation? I just want to understand the question proper. This question, is it in relation after I've analyzed the docket and was of the view that they were intruders and pursuing that investigation? Perhaps if I can get a clarity on that aspect.
Thank you. At any point after having read the statement and formulated your own view, or even before you could have formulated your own view, in other words, after receiving the case docket from the initial investigating team, did you ever go and interview the people who were in the house?
Not all of them, my lord. The people that I interacted with is Mr. Tumelo Madala, Mthokozisi Twala, and Longo Twala, my lord. Then thereafter, another person that we interacted with was Miss Makumalo. That was the mother of the Kumalos, the two sisters, my lord.
Abantu engakhulumisana nabo ke noma ke engaya kubona ke kwaku uTumelo Madlala, Mthokozisi kanye noLongo Twala, omunye futhi ke kwaku Makumalo kusho ukuthi ke uma uKelly kanye naye ke uZandi.
I forgot, my lord. Also Miss Zandi Kumalo.
Naye ke uZandi Kumalo.
It is Miss Kelly Kumalo that I did not interact with, my lord.
Umuntu engazange ngikhulumisane naye ke kwaku uyena Miss Kelly Kumalo.
Now, you said what is the reason why you did not go and interview Ms. Kelly Kumalo?
My lord, as I said, I mean, if you look at the confessions, she was cited as a trigger point. And as I said, it was prosecutor-driven. You obtain these things, you share with the NPA, and you get guidance as to who you can approach and who you can talk to, my lord.
Imbangela ke noma izathu sokuthi ke ngakhulumi ke naye uMiss Kelly Khumalo uma ubheka ke istatement ke esogonyulo ke esenziwa esasikhomba kuyena ke ukuthi uyena ke owayesemuva kwakho ke lokho noma ukuthi bengishilo ke ukuthi ke uma kunalokho okutholayo uyahamba ke uye kulabo abashuthisayo bese kuba yibona ke abakutshelayo ukuthi ukhuluma nobani ungakhulumi nobani.
Hence, my lord, insofar as the approach towards her, the position that I wanted to adopt is through that application, that 8225, when I made an application for the J50, that was my approach towards trying to interact with her, insofar as the evidence and the allegation that were contained towards her.
Eyami ke indlela yokuthi ke ngizama ukuthi ngikhulume naye ke noma ke ngihlanganeke naye iyona ke le engithula ukufakazi ngayo yayo iJ50 noma ke incwadi ke leyana ngangisicelo kuyona ukuthi ke aboshwe ke ngabo ubufakazi.
Thank you, Brigadier. Now, having interviewed Madlala, Ntogozitwala, Longwe, Makumalo, and Zandi, were you then satisfied that what you had interviewed them about vis-a-vis the contents of their statements was in the same line? Actually, there was signage there.
Yes, I was. The essence of it, my lord, there was a signage in that they were intruders. That was the bottom line. But if one looks at, the defense has seen the statements. There were statements that were made over and over again, trying to explain certain things, inconsistencies, Makumalo, even the issues of the ID parade. So there were a lot of things. But the essence of my interview, my lord, was not to retake the statements, but it was really just to confirm that the statements made in the docket, they stand by them, and the issue of them standing to the assertion that indeed they were intruders that came into the house.
Manje ke usukhulume naye ke uTumelo Madlala, Mthokozisithwala, uLongwethwala, uMakhumalo kanye noZandi ke ube usuthola ke ukuthi impela khona ke ukuhlangana kulokho ke owawukubheka. Yebo ke ngoba ke kwakhona ke inkulumo ezazikhona ke ukuba kungahlangani ke khulunywa ngawo ke ama ID parade abamele bayakwazi ke lokho, kodwa ke nje egcineni yebo unobheka ke futhi ukuthi ngabe lokho okubhaliwe kwistatement sabo zabo basamile yini kuona impela ke watholakala ukuthi yebo babe khona noma babe khona abantu abangena lapho ngalelo langa.
Thank you. Was that the only consideration that you had to interview these witnesses for, just to determine whether or not they were intruders?
The other aspect, my lord, when I spoke to and I dealt with this part with Mr. Madlala and Mr. Mthokozisithwala, was in relation to the ID parade, where they said, I think Mr. Madlala said he is 50-50, is not certain that he can, and Mr. Twala, this is now Mthokozisithwala also saying he's not sure. I think that is the other aspect out of that discussion where we were intending or thinking of pursuing an identity parade, and I think that's related to that, my lord. Statements were obtained and attached and discovered to the defense as well to this effect.
Okunye futhi ke okukhuluma naye ke uTumelo Madlala kanye noMthokozisithwala mala nokuthi ke kiwe ke kwi parade noma ke kukhomba parade ID parade la asho ke khona ke uTumelo Madlala ukuthi yena ke u50-50 mala nokuthi angakhomba noma angakhombi, naye ke uMthokozisithwala esho ukuthi ke akanaso isiqiniseko sokuthi ke angakhomba ke uma engaya kuyona istatement zabo zathathwa ke nabameli bayinika.
That's what I recall at this stage, my lord.
Iloko ngikukhumbulayo.
So another consideration was, the second consideration over and above the determination on whether they were intruders or not, was the issue of the ID parade, which had to do with the identity of the intruders, not so? Of the alleged intruders, not so?
Yes, but the correct context, my lord, the consideration insofar as to whether they were intruders or not was not based on the statements of what the people who were in the house were saying or the interview. It was formed before I spoke to them. I made that decision based on the facts that I spoke about independently from them. When it was clear that they were intruders, it was part of the investigation to align the investigation, not to get an opinion as to whether they were intruders or not. I had already formed that decision based on the objective evidence that I related to, my lord, earlier.
Ukhuluma ke nabantu istatement lezi ke kwangasikona ke ukuthola manje ukuthi kwaba khona abantu abangena noma cha. Lokho ke ngangise iqedile ke ngako ngangise ngifinyelele kona ke ngokufakazi ke enganginabo mina ke. So uma ngiyabona ke kwangasikona ukuthola ukuthi bakhona yini abantu abangena noma cha. Mina ke ngangise ngitholile lokho.
In other words, my lord, at that stage, I was convinced they were intruders. It wasn't to ascertain that. I was convinced. It was simply just to ascertain that they are still around, for example, because you can't build on the case when you don't know whether your witnesses are still around. Are they in a good and health position? Should you want to pursue the matter? Will they be able to come and give evidence if the matter takes that direction? So you ascertain to know who is available and who is not available. And that is why at that stage, the discovery of Mr. Makaleni as being the deceased also came up at that stage, because I was, and as well as Mr. Ngashe Sina, as him being passed on. Those were found out at that stage, because it was not only the Kumalos, it was just to look at critical witnesses as to where they are and what is their status in terms of being healthy and life and death situation, my lord.
Futhi ke ngaleso sikhathi leso kwakuqinisekisa nokubheka ukuthi ofakazi laba basekhona ke bakuyiphi indawo ingabe isimo sabo ke sezempilo sikanjani ke, ingakho ke ngoba ke angeke uqhubeke phambili necala ke ofakazi bengekho noma ungazi ukuthi isimo sofakazi bakho sihamba kanjani. Ingakho ke kwatholakala ngaleso sikhathi leso ukuthi ke umnumzana uMakeleni akasekho kanye futhi naye ke ubaba uNgcatshe.
Yes, my lord, that's my answer.
Thank you. Brigadier, my question is very simple. The second reason why you went to see or to interview these witnesses was in relation to the identity of the perpetrator or of the alleged intruders, not so?
No, not so, not so. You see, that is why, my lord, it's important to explain. I was specific that with regard to the issue of the identity, it was only Mr. Twala and Mr. Tumelo Madlala that I interviewed. Hence, I said statements were obtained and they were attached in the docket. I did not relate to everyone.
Ingakho ke kubalekile ukuchaza ngoba ngishilo ukuthi mayelana nodaba leli lokho ukuthi kuhanjwe ke kuyokhonjwa phecelezi ke ID parade, ngakhuluma ke no Tumelo Madlala kanye naye ke uMthokozi Sithwala, ngasho ke nokuthi ne-statement ezimayelana nalokho zathathwa ke futhi zikhona ke zingxenye edokodo nabameli bayithola.
Thank you. Maybe we were miles away from each other, but let me bring you very near. At the inception of this trial, the state made an opening address to the court and said to the court, at the core of this trial, it is the identity of the perpetrators, or what you refer to as the intruders. The state further told this court that this trial would be about determining. It did not say exactly what I'm saying, I'm paraphrasing the state, that the duty of this court or of this trial will be to try and get to know who the perpetrators who committed these offenses were. That is what I'm trying to say. Do you understand?
I understand, my lord.
Thank you. Now, you are saying you had already formulated a viewpoint that they were intruders.
That's correct, my lord. Before, yes. That view was I came to that conclusion, my lord, after analyzing the docket and before interviewing anyone.
Yebo kuyiqiniso ngishilo ukuthi mina ke ngase ngitholileke ukuthi ngempela babe khona abantu abangena lapho emuva kokuthi sengithe ngaqhubungula lona ke idokodo leli ngaphambi kokuthi ngikhulume nomuntu noma kube khona umuntu engikhuluma naye.
Now, the second consideration why you had to go and interview these witnesses, you say you had to go and find out whether or not Madlala and Mthokozi Sithwala would be able to identify those that are referred to as the alleged perpetrators, not so, who got into the house, not so?
Yes, in the event an ID parade is held, my lord.
Yebo kuyiqiniso ke ngaya ke na ke uTumelo Madlala kanye naye ke uMthokozi Sithwala ngelithi uma kuukuthi ke kungathatha isinqumo ke sokuthi ke kube ne-ID parade noma kuyokhonjwa ke ukuthi bangaba isimo yini sokuthi ke bangabakhomba.
Why did you have to limit your inquiry on whether or not they will be able to identify the alleged perpetrators to Madlala and Mtokozi Sitwala and not extend it to all the adults who were in the house?
My Lord, firstly, you look into what people say in their statements. That's number one. But two, you are guided. As I've said, this was a prosecutorial-driven investigation as to who you can pursue for what purpose. It's not a willy-nilly type of an approach. So that was the guidance that the investigation was taking, and hence those two were approached, my Lord.
Kwamngani-ke ukuthi-ke kube uTumela Madlala noMthokozi Sithwala kuphela-ke abantu abayokhulumisana nabo-ke mayelana nalolu daba lokuthi-ke bangakhomba noma cha. Ngishilo-ke ukuthi-ke noma-ke okokuqala uyabheka-ke ukuthi-ke abantu noma ofakazi bathini-ke kuyitatimende zabo. Ngishulo-ke nokuthi futhi-ke ukuthi-ke lana-ke bekuthi uma unobufakazi uyahamba-ke uye kulabo abashushisayo bese bekutshela ukuthi ubani ungaya kuyena ungayi kuyena mayelana nani noma mayelana naluphi udaba. Kwakungasikona nje ukuthi-ke uyazenzela-ke lokho ufuna ukuthi ukwenze.
Thank you. Now, you're speaking about the fact that this was a prosecutor-driven investigation, and you mentioned the names of Advocate Juliet Mahwata, Advocate L.B. Leonard, and the Honorable Advocate George Baloyi, who's the lead prosecutor in this case, not so?
It is so, my Lord.
Ngikhulumile-ke ngabo-ke abameli noma-ke ama-advocates labo abalile Mahwata u-Advocate Baloyi ekuyena-ke ohola-ke ithimba elishushisayo-ke kuleli cala kuyiqiniso.
Are you then saying, Brigadier, that the reason why you did not extend the inquiry as to the ability to be able to identify the alleged intruders who got into the house to the other members who were in the house as well, was because the team of prosecutors who were leading you did not give you specific instruction to go and find out from them whether or not they'll be able to identify these people?
No, what I'm saying, my Lord, is that such was discussed. You get guidance as to who you can pursue based on the facts that are before court. I mean before them in terms of the dockets, and you pursue it accordingly. For example, my Lord, let me deal with Ms. Kelly Kumalo. At that stage, when we had sight of all the accused, Ms. Kelly Kumalo was already now, it was alleged that she was a trigger point. How do you pursue such a person when there's allegation against her? Because in the main docket, prior to us having sight of this accused, she was a witness whom her phone was stolen. Subsequent to that, investigation is done. She's now fingered as a trigger point. How do you pursue that? I mean, it does not take even a genius to see that even you can't. She's a person of interest. Therefore, investigation must be done either to corroborate or disapprove those facts. Unfortunately, the investigation proved otherwise, and I spoke about that, including the application. That's the first aspect. The second one, my Lord, and we dealt with this part in relation to Mr. Longetwala. There was a bag, and I've explained that issue of the bag that was seemingly common, a see-through bag of money that was found in his bag, his cell phone downloadings, as well as that of Ms. Kelly Kumalo and Advocate Mrs. Client, accused 3. So there are questions there as well. You need to look into that objectively. How do you use that person? Mrs. Kumalo Senior, initially, right at the inception of this matter, when I was not involved, the first investigation team, there was an ID parade held, and the wrong person was identified and arrested, arraigned, and eventually the case fell apart. So you take those things into consideration when you want to conduct an ID parade. You can't be oblivion to ignore those facts because they are critical, my Lord, as to who do you call to attend an ID parade.
Ingabe manje uthi-ke isinqumo-ke sokuthi-ke laba abanye-ke kungayiwa kubona-ke ingoba-ke manje kwashiwo-ke noma basho bashushise kuwena-ke ukuthi cha bona-ke angayiwa noma bangabhekwa-ke cha. Uzokhumula-ke ukuthi-ke ekuqaleni-ke ukuthi uMiss Kelly Kumalo-ke mangangaya kuyena-ke ngiqonde kuyena-ke ukuthi-ke waye ufakazi. Manje-ke sekuvela-ke manje itatimende sekukhonjwa kuyena-ke ukuthi manje naye useyasoleka-ke uya kanjani-ke kumuntu onjalo. ulongwethwala kunalesikhwama-ke semali esasikhona kumakhalekhukhwini wakhe esikhona-ke nakuyena-ke uMs Kelly Khumalo kanye futhi-ke nakuloyo uMr noma u-advocate Mnisi amele manje-ke uzoya kanjani-ke kuyena ukuthi umsebenzisi naye-ke uMakhumalo okuyena-ke umama kaKelly-ke ekuqaleni-ke noma-ke kuthiwa leli lokuqala elaliphenya khona-ke i-ID parade eyayikhona-ke lapho wakhomba-ke umuntu engasiyena-ke umuntu loyo wayovela-ke enkantolo kodwa-ke icala lelo alizange liye ndawo manje uyazibheka-ke lezo zinto noma into ezikanjani.
Are you done, Brigadier?
Yes, I'm done, my lord.
Thank you. My question, Brigadier, is you only approached Madlala and Mthokozi Sithwala about a possibility of attending an identification parade. Now, my question was, why did you not also approach the Longethwala, Makhumalo, Zandi, and Kelly, and find out from them as whether would they be able to attend an identification parade in order to possibly identify these alleged intruders? And your answer was, this was a prosecutor, it was a prosecutor-guided investigation. Now, I ask you, would that be the reason, therefore, why you did not approach these other 4 other people who were in the house? Because prosecutors did not give you specific instruction to go find out from them whether or not they'll be able to identify these people who were in the house.
That's a good piece, my lord. But this is just answer the question. He mentioned that Ms. Kelly Khumalo was a trigger point and person of interest. Longethwala, the issue of the see-through bag common to him, to Ms. Kelly Khumalo, and to accused number 3, and that Makhumalo identified the wrong person. Why is the question not being repeated, my lord? In fact, counsel is incorrectly just quoting one aspect of the answer that Brigadier Gininda gave. He's not referring to what Brigadier Gininda answered to what I've just quoted now.
As it please the court, my lord. Say, I am specifically referring to the period subsequent to you taking over the investigation. I'm not talking about what happened when the case was investigated by the previous team. We're talking about your era, the Gininda era, in the investigation of this case. Do you understand?
I understand, my lord,
Thank
and
you.
my answer is in relation to my presence, because prior to me coming on board, there was these accused before court were not cited as this assertion or the evidence that suggests that Ms. Kelly Khumalo was a trigger point was never there. In terms of the evidence, there was no statement except the assertion of the father of the deceased, and I refer to that, my lord, where at some stage accused 4's name was cited, but then there's nothing that became of it. As many other people were cited, then it was a dead end. The answer that I'm giving, my lord, refers to the time when I was leading this team, and this assertion I'm making it when I was now the lead investigator in this matter.
Impendulo enginikeza ngayo-ke impendulo kangikhulume-ke ngokwenzeka-ke ngaphambilini-ke ukuthi mina-ke ngiphenye icala leli, ngoba-ke ngaphambi kokuthi kube yimina ophenyayo, abasola labo abaphambi kwenkantolo akukho la abakhonjwa khona-ke noma ekwakhulunywa ngabo khona-ke, ngaphandle-ke kwala khona ubaba wakhe-ke umufi akhuluma-ke ngaye umsolo wakhe wesine, kodwa akukho-ke okwenzeka-ke lapho. Kodwa manje uma ngiphendula ngikhuluma ngesikhathi mina sekuyimina ophenyayo.
Brigadier Gininda, let me put it this way. Subsequent to the arrest of the people or of the accused that are before court here and before their appearance at court, did you go to these people who were in the house and say to them, look, there are people that we have arrested that we suspect that they could have been involved in the case? Would you be able to attend an identification parade to go and see whether those that you saw on the 26th of October 2014 could be these ones that we have arrested.
My Lord, I've answered this part.
What was your answer?
My answer was that the only people I approach with that aspect, it's Mr. Thokozisi Twala and Tumelo Madlala. I've indicated why the others were not approached. And it will be incorrect, my Lord, to say the prosecutors are the ones who said don't do it. I simply cited that it was prosecutor-driven investigation, meaning you sit, you get guidance, but you also contribute because you talk with the prosecution. And I indicated why there was doubt insofar as other witnesses as to whether we can call them as witnesses to attend the ID parade or not. So I was simply giving basis that it was not simply an ignorance that we're only selecting Tumelo Madlala and Thokozisi Twala. There were reasons on the others. If those reasons were there, the likelihood, my Lord, they would have been approached as well and asked, my Lord.
Ngikuphenduleke umbuzo lona kodwa ngizophendula ukuthi ngishilo-ke mayelana-ke nofakazi laba-ke ukuthi unganike kuyiwe-ke uTumelo kanye futhi naye-ke uMthokozisi nokuthi futhi akusilona-ke iqiniso ukuthi-ke abashushisi ibona bathatha leso sinqumo ukuthi uma-ke uphenya uyahamba uyokhulumisana nabashushisi nawe-ke unovo lwakho olufakayo-ke noma-ke olushoyo kukona lokho. Ngichazile-ke nezizathu zokuthi-ke kunganike abanye laba bona-ke kungayiwa noma kungayanga kubona ngiyofuna ukwazi-ke ukuthi uma ngayiwa ku-ID parade bangaba khona yini.
But the ultimate decision, my Lord, lies with the NPA, as everyone knows, because they're the ones who knows how the docket must be prepared as they will be prosecuting it. So all I was saying was that there was this discussion and that was the view that was adopted.
Kodwa-ke isinqumo-ke noma-ke ekugcineni-ke kuba-ke i-NPA noma-ke abashushisi-ke ekuyibona-ke abathatha leso isinqumo ngoba-ke ibona-ke abazoshushisa bayazi ukuthi idokodo-ke kufanele libe kanjani.
That's my answer, my Lord.
Gininda, let us simplify this thing. Actually, it is very simple. Very simple. The question is, subsequent to the arrest, these accused persons that are before court, did you go back to the witnesses who were in the house and say to them, I have now arrested 5 people. I therefore would love you to attend an identification parade for you to go find out if you're able to identify 1, 2, or 3 of them as those people who got into the house on the 26th of October 2015. Did you do that?
My Lord, I'm saying, it's just that it's put in a wrong context because I don't have the date. I'm saying, when I had sight of this, Mr. Tumelo Twala was approached for a possible identity parade.
Right.
Not after the indictment, not after their first appearance on the 27th. I think the approach was before. And hence I was trying to find their statement to see which relates only to Mr. Twala and Mr. Tumelo Madlala. The others were not approached and I've given reasons, my Lord, as to why.
Lana-ke bese ngishilo-ke lokho bengibheka-ke nje manje-ke ama-dates ngoba-ke lokhu kwenzeka-ke ngaphambilini kokuthi-ke basola-ke bayobingelela-ke imantshi ilanga leli-ke abayovela ngalo enkantolo bekubheka nje ama-dates ukuthi-ke ngaya-ke kuTumelo Madlala kanye naye-ke uMthokozisi Twala abanye-ke angiyanga kubona izathu-ke ngiyishilo ukuthi kwakungani.
Thank you. Let's start with Madlala. When you approached him with a request to attend an identification parade, what did he say?
My Lord, I think he said 50-50. He said it happened a long time ago, but if I try to recall his statement, he said something to the effect that he's not sure. I think he may have used to say 50-50 because it happened some time ago.
Uma saqala kuyena-ke uTumelo Madlala ngicabanga ukuthi washo-ke ukuthi-ke kade senzeka-ke isigameko lesi ngako-ke ungabaza cabanga ukuthi wasebenzisa-ke igama leli-ke 50-50.
Thank you. What did Mthokozisi Twala say?
I think he said also he's not certain, my lord. There was no refusal to say they can't identify, they were just not certain, my lord.
Ngicabanga ukuthi nayo-ke naye washo-ke umthokozi Sithwala ukuthi-ke akanasiqiniseko kwakungasibona ukuthi cha babenqaba kodwa kwakuyikusho nje ukuthi bengenayo isiqiniseko sokuthi bangakhomba.
Thank you. And you are saying the reason why you did not go to Longwe is because in Longwe's phone there were some downloads or some photos of bags of money that were similar to the downloads that were found in accused number 3's bag. Therefore, you decided to exclude Longwe on those bases.
I'm not sure if you say like I said, my lord, it was prosecutor-driven. It was not a neutral decision. At that stage, we were working hand in glove with the prosecution, my lord, and you get guidance.
Uma uthi-ke kwakuyimina-ke kuloko kushoyo ukuthi-ke isizathu sokuthi ngingayike kulongwe ngoba-ke isinqumo sathathwa ngoba-ke kwakunalesa sikhwama semali esasitholakala nakuyena umakhalekhukhwini kanumber 3 ngishilo ngathi-ke kwakuwukukhulumisana nokubonisana-ke nalabo-ke abashukisayo.
So are you then saying that yourself, with the 3 prosecutors, were of the view that it is not necessary for you to approach Longwe to find out if you'd be able to identify any of the accused person?
I beg your pardon, my lord, sorry, I didn't understand the question. My apologies, I didn't follow the question, my lord. If it can be repeated, sorry.
Brigadier Gininda, the reason why you are unable to follow my questions, I'm talking here and then you're busy doing something. You're paging through your documents there. If you can just listen to me, and then from there, you'll be given indulgence to look for whatever that you're looking for. For now, can you please listen to my question?
Yes,
thank you. My question is, are you then saying that it was your decision, yourself and a team of prosecutors, that you should not approach Longwe because in his phone there were some photos that were found which were similar to those that were found in accused number 3's phone downloads?
I'm saying, my lord, the authority to guide investigation, especially when NPA is involved, lies with the NPA. That's the ultimate authority.
Ngithi-ke engikushoyo mina ukuthi-ke igunya-ke lokuthi-ke uma ukuthi uphenyo luhamba kanjani-ke kwi-NPA ilabo-ke abashushisayo.
Thank you, Brigadier. I'm saying to you, we are going to simplify this thing. And it's going to be very tedious, but very simple. With regard to Mr. Mashala, he said to you, he's unsure whether he'll be able to identify these people. It was a 50-50 situation.
Yes.
With regard to Mr. Twala, you said, Sithwala now, you said he told you that he was not certain it was also a 50-50 situation. Now, with regard to Mr. Longwe, I'm asking you the same question. Now you are saying it was, the decision lies with the NPA. Is that your answer to my question?
No, I'm saying the ultimate authority, my lord, when it comes to prosecution, it's NPA. What I'm saying is that because the matter was prosecutorial-driven, you get guidance and you were then guided as to who you can utilize for what purpose. And I gave reasons, my lord, as to why there were question marks or uncomfortability that Mr. Longwe specifically could be used. There was this part that needed investigation because you can't ignore the fact, my lord, that there's a person who is alleged to be one of the perpetrators, whom upon the downloading of the phone, a see-through bag of money is found, and that bag is found with someone who's supposed to be a witness. You can't ignore that material fact. You need to investigate and establish the position of this person who's supposed to be a witness in relation to this now alleged perpetrator. You can't rely on that because that is already setting a mark. You can't ignore the fact that they're saying one of the person who's supposed to be your witness is a trigger point. You need to investigate. That's how objectivity is done. And you can't ignore what I've said about the mother as well. So it was those aspects, my lord, that I know played a role in our discussion with the NPA. But what I'm saying is that at the ultimate, which is the same as well when I try to get a warrant for Ms. Kelly Khumalo, the ultimate decision makers is the NPA. Our powers are divided clearly, my lord.
Engikushoyo ke la ukuthi ke isinqumo ke sokuthi ke kwenzekani ke ingakho ngithi ke igunya ke likuyona ke NPA labo ke abashushisayo ke ingakho ke ngisho ke ukuthi ke ibona ke uma sikhulumisana sibonisana ke abashoyo ukuthi ke uyabani awuyi kubani ke ukukhulumisana nobani ukukhulumisana nobani nomuntu lana ke sikhuluma ngayo longothwala okufanele ukuthi abe ufakazi kodwa ke lana kunomuntu omunye wabantu abakhonjwayo ukuthi ke ibona ke abenza isigameko lesi kuma downloads akhe kutholakala lelisaka elinemali naku yena ke lo okuthiwa ufakazi kuyatholakala awukwazi ke ukuthi ungakushaya indiva ke lokho iloko ngikushilo ke nangaye uma Khumalo kanye futhi ke nangenkathi ke ngenza isicelo lesiya sokuboshwa kwakhe ke uMs Kelly Khumalo ngishilo ke ukuthi ke isinqumo sabuya kuphi.
Thank you. That is exactly what I'm putting it to you. That because of all those factors that you have now enumerated, yourself and the team of prosecutors who were guiding you then took a viewpoint that it was not necessary to go and request and talk to Mr. Longe about an identification parade, not so?
A decision, yes, was taken, my lord. I'm not sure if that word not necessary, but the decision was taken that he should not be approached for the identity parade.
Isinqumo sathathwa ke sona ke ukuthi ke akungayiwa ke kuyethu longothwala ukuthi ke kuyokhulunywa ngaye mayelana ke nokuyokhomba noma i-ID parade.
Thank you, Brigadier. Now, let's come to Khumalo, the mother of the house.
Yes, ma'am.
Why, like Madlala and Mthokozisi Twala, was she not approached for a possible identification parade immediately after the arrest of the 5 accused persons that are before court here?
Well, my lord, so, and I've said this, my lord, at the inception, rather at the beginning, when I was not involved in this matter, back in 2014, I think it might be earliest 2014, yes, I think it was in 2014, there was an ID parade that was held where one suspect, Mr. Mbata, was actually identified by Khumalo Senior. And I know that was the fact that actually was concerning as to whether we can utilize her in light of that or not. And that person, my lord, as I've said, it's not something that is hidden, was arrested, placed into custody, detained. I think the matter was remanded for formal bail application when evidence then came through that is actually it could not have been one of the perpetrators.
Ngokumayelana naye ke Khumalo ukuthi kwakungani ke ukuthi yena ke uyokhulunyiswa ke mayelana nayo ke i-parade lena ke ngishilo ukuthi ngaphambilini kokuthi ke ngiphenya icala leli kwakungo 2014 ukuthi ke kune-ID parade yayikhona ke la Khumalo wakhomba khona ke ngicabanga ukuthi kwakuwumbatha ke waye eseboshwa ke uma kuzokwenziwa icelo sayo ke ibail ila kwakungufakazi obeza khona ukuthi cha kwangasiyena ke.
So what does that have to do with a request to go for an identification parade in respect of this accused person that you just arrested?
I don't understand, my lord. You have a person who has identified a wrong person, and that person gets arrested, his constitutional right is deprived, sits in jail, and thereafter it is found that is a wrong person. I'm not so sure whether Advocate Mnisi says you can still rely on that particular witness, if I understand him correctly, which I doubt if that's what he's saying, my lord.
Angazi noma umbuzo lo ngiuzwa kahle ngoba la unomuntu noma ufakazi ke manje uhambile wayokhomba umuntu kwatholakala ukuthi cha lo muntu amkhombile akusiyena ke umuntu lona ke manje usenqatshela noma usevinjwa ke amalungelo akhe ke wahamba wayohlala esitokisini kwatholakala ukuthi cha lo muntu akusiyena ke. So angazi noma ngizwa kahle ke noma uma esho uthi umsemnisi usungaphinde futhi uncike kufakazi onjalo.
Thank you, Brigadier. To understand you, you're saying that you were afraid that Mrs. Makumalo would have attended the identification parade and said, no, the person who resembles the person, one of the people who resembles one of the people who got into the house, I had already identified him at the initial identification parade, and he is not one of these that are appearing at this identification parade, referring to this accused person that are before court. Were you afraid of that?
No, my lord. No, I was not afraid of that. My lord, when you do investigation, and this is how I understand it, it's at the end of the day, and it doesn't matter where the truth lies, my lord. If the truth is at the behest or at the interest of the suspects, you need to reveal it. But you cannot flout rules and do something that you can see that it's not in the interest of justice in general. Now, Mrs. Kumalo Senior, I've already said, my lord, what has happened. How do you then, my lord, subject a person whom you are pursuing as a suspect to such environment? I think that will be unethical, my lord. You have a witness which you know, because it's proven, it was before my time, that this person identify a particular suspect because of that identification is then arrested, remanded into custody. When the police do a constructive investigation, they find that what was said to be the perpetrator is actually incorrect and that person is released. How do you then, as an objective person and investigator, my lord, want to subject another person who is suspected to be a perpetrator to that situation? I think it will not be in the interest of justice, even for the accused. So it was not just an isolated situation that I'm afraid of what he must say. Even the accused or the suspect himself, to expose that particular suspect to such an individual will be unethical and I think very much wrong. You can't do that, my lord.
Bese ngikhulumile noma ngishileke udaba noma ukuthi kwenzekani-ke ngaye-ke uma khomana ngaphambili kokuthi mina-ke ngiholeke ithimba eliphenyayo-ke lana hhayi nje ukuthi-ke lokho kwenzeka mina-ke kodwa-ke nakubona-ke abasola noma-ke abantu labo ekufanele-ke ayobakhomba-ke ukwenza kanjani ukuthi-ke umuntu ayokhonjwa-ke umuntu osekhombe umuntu kwatholakala kulo muntu amkhombile ukhombe umuntu ekungasiyena kuzotholakala ukuthi-ke kwenza into-ke engafanelekile uma wenza ngaleyo ndlela.
Brigadier Gininda.
Sorry, my lord, just to complete this point here. Sorry, no, sorry, Mr. Minister, to speak of. I was not done. So it is different, my lord, when perhaps, let's say a person is identified in the ID parade, but there are no consequences after that. In other words, investigation is done and the person is, is eliminated. But when a person is identified, then subsequent to the identification, then the person loses his freedom or her freedom in terms of incarceration because of the reliance on that identification. I think it will really be unjust if you want to subject, I wouldn't want to do that, another person to the same environment with the hope that this person now may not point this person. Because what happens then if you point this person and then it turns out later in the investigation that you are sitting with a similar situation, my lord?
Futhi-ke manje-ke okwenzekayo-ke lo muntu usekhombile-ke kwatholakala ukuthi umuntu amkhombile akusiyena-ke uyaphinda-ke futhi sekuboshwe abanye-ke uzokhomba futhi utholakale uma sekuhamba isikhathi-ke ukuthi-ke kwenzeke kona lokho ebekwenzekile ngaphambilini.
Thank you, Brigadier. Should that not have been left to Ms. Makumalo to say, I don't think I'll be able to identify anyone at the identification or at the proposed identification parade, or to say, maybe this time I'll be able to identify one of the perpetrators who got into the house than for you to think for her?
I wasn't, so my lord, as I've said again, it was not my sole decision. The prosecution was involved. But to come back to the question, my lord, when you look at the interest of justice, that's not how Eglisa was taught, my lord. Interest of justice applies both sides. You don't look at Makumalo only. and ignore the rights of the people you are pursuing. That is why I'm saying, my lord, even if evidence was to come up that supports the suspect at that stage, you need to make it available. And if they're exonerated, so be it, my lord. That is the systematic search for the truth. So I couldn't, and I'm talking about me, place myself in a position where I must subject this accused to a situation which I think would have been unjust based on what I already know has happened, my lord. I don't think that will be constitutionally correct, my lord.
Nanjengoba lokho besengikushilo ke ukuthi ke bese kwenzeke kanjani ke uma kuukuthi iqiniso kufanele liyaphuma ke awubheki nje iqiniso ke elizovuna wena ke uma iqiniso livuna labo ababoshiwe noma abasolwa ke lelo qiniso lelo kufanele livezwe ke noma lidalulweke manje ke akusiyona ke indlela engafundiswa noma engaqeqeshwa ngayo ke mina ke awukwazi ke manje ukuthi ke nalabo abasolwa kwenzeke lokho ebese kwenzekile kubona noma bese kwenzekile ngaphambilini kwenziwa uyena uMakhumalo.
Thank you. Now, to exclude Ms. Makhumalo in the participation of a possible identification parade was not because she could not identify, she told you that she could not identify a person, but it is because of the fact that she had already identified a wrong person in another identification parade, and that therefore the decision was taken by yourself and the prosecution team not to approach her with a possible identification parade. In summary, is that what you're saying?
In summary, the decision was taken not to approach him, my lord.
Thank you.
Kafishane nje kwathathwa ke isinqumo sokuthi kungayiwa ke yena ke ngenhloso yokuthi ke ayokho.
Thank you. Zandi.
Yes.
What reasons were given by Zandi, or did you approach Zandi?
We spoke to Ms. Zandi, my lord.
Yes.
Yes.
About an identification parade.
About the case in
I'm talking about identification parade.
Yeah, okay. Can
Yes.
you just be patient with me?
Thank you.
I'll get there. I know you want to get to that parade. I can see you are eager. I'm getting there.
Because it is very interesting.
Yes, I'm getting there.
Yes.
I know you want me to go there very quickly.
Yes.
So, yes, my lord, she was approached, but the position as well, insofar as whether we can use her for the ID parade, as I said, it's guided by the prosecution. That decision was never communicated to me, my lord. But we had interaction with Ms. Zandi, quite a lot, including the consultation. The only thing that I can cite that was perhaps needed some clarity, and I'm not casting aspersion because we tried to look into it, my lord, and we couldn't find anything, was and we dealt with these records last week when I was under, was it last week or week before last, when I was under cross-examination by Mr. Ramsipil, where he made me read the communication between Zandi and the sister, and those communications of what was being said, I mean, they speak for themselves. So there was this clarity that, you know, one was not sure as to whether, because if you listen to those communications, it is clear what is being said there between her and the sister. So that was a question mark, my lord, as to how far could this person know, honestly. But that, my lord, and this is the fundamental part, does not take away the fact that they were intruders. It is a different position insofar as the motive or the trigger point. But insofar as Ms. Zandi Khumalo, that was a question mark, to be honest.
Cabanga ukuthi ke nkathi ke bengihlonya imibuzo yena ke Mr. Ramsipile kunale milayezo ke noma kama SMS befundwa ke la enkantolo ke eyimoto ke zazikhona ke phakathi kwakhe ke Ms. Zandi Khumalo kanye naye ke usisi wakhe ke ayayikhulumela ke lawo ma message lawo ke ukuthi ke kuthiwani ke noma yini eshiwoyo ke khona lapho ngakho ke ngoqala naye ke Ms. Zandi Khumalo yayikhona ke imibuzo ke noma ke ama question mark ayekhona ke.
Brigadier Gininda, please help me to understand your answer. What is the reason why you did not approach Zandi for a possible identification parade after the arrest of these 5 people that are before court here? Just a very precise answer.
The precise answer, my lord, is that one, same with the others, there was a decision taken that she should not be approached for the purpose of the ID parade, although there was interaction between us and Ms. Zandi Kumalo. But insofar as the ID parade, that was not the position that was taken. But I'm saying, my lord, to support that, there was this question mark in terms of the communication between her and the sister as to what extent did she know, to be more precise, my lord. And I'm simply saying it was not coming from nowhere, my lord.
Engikushoyo-ke ukuthi lana-ke yebo kwakukhona-ke ukukhulumisana-ke phakathi kwethu-ke kanye naye-ke uMiss Zandi Khumalo, kodwa-ke akungekho-ke okwashiwo kumina-ke ukuthi-ke noma-ke bathathwa-ke isinqumo sokuthi cha angakhulunywa-ke naye-ke noma acelwe-ke mayelana nayo-ke i-ID parade. Bese ngiqhubeka-ke ngithi-ke kwakhona-ke lokho le communication yayikhona phakathi kwakhe nosisi wakhe-ke manje kukhona-ke lemibuzo noma lama-question mark ayekhona-ke kungaziwa-ke ukuthi wazi noma wayenolwazi olungakanani.
But I can say, my lord, sorry, Mr. Minister, I can say that up to today, there is no evidence that I was able to find that implicates her or give an indication that she may have known about, the trigger point of this matter, my lord. I did not find. Standing here, I don't have any assertion or evidence that suggests that she knew that the deceased would be killed or that there are people hired, my lord, except that discussion, my lord.
Kodwa-ke kuze kube manje nanjengoba ngimile-ke lana anginabo ubufakazi angaze ngitholeke ubufakazi ukuthi unolwazi noma wayenolwazi-ke lokuthi-ke umufi wayezoshona noma kwakunabantu-ke abatholwa-ke ukuthi-ke ababulale umufi. Akukho enginako.
I'm done, yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Brigadier. Now, very precisely to understand your answer, you are basically saying, like Longwetwala, there was no specific instruction that came from the prosecution team that you should approach Zandi for an identification parade after the arrest of this accused. Not so?
No. A decision was not to approach, my lord. So the people that we did not approach, it's because the decision was not, let's not approach them for the purpose of an ID parade. Those that I approached, those two are the ones where there was a decision to say you can approach them for the identity parade. That is why, my lord, then the statements in relation to their response was then taken. For example, Mr. Twala, his statement was dated 25 October 2020. So it was even before they appeared in court where he was talking to this issue of the identity parade, because one would have wanted to do that before the court appearance, my lord. And I think with Madala, we may be sitting more or less around that date. But for Mr. Twala, it was before even the first court appearance, my lord.
Okwenzeka-ke ukuthi-ke isinqumo sathathwa-ke kulabo ababili uMadlala kanye noMthokozisi ukuthi akiweke kubona-ke ngenhloso-ke yokuthi kukhulunywe nabo-ke ngayo i-ID parade. Nakulaba engayiwanga kubona-ke bathatha isinqumo-ke sokuthi cha akungayiwa noma kungakhulunyiswana nabo mayelana naso-ke isinqumo noma-ke udaba lokuthi kukiwe kwi-ID parade. Ingakho khona-ke ney'tatimende lana zabo labo ababili uMadlala kanye noThwala esikaThwala sona-ke isitatimende kwakungeyi-25 ka-October 2020 kwangaphambi kokuthi-ke abasolwa bayobingelela imantshi enkantolo.
So you're basically saying the reason why you did not approach her, there was a specific instruction that came from the prosecution team that was leading this case that she should not be approached for an identification parade.
There was no direct, the way it's been put, my lord, what I can, how could I answer it? There was no decision that she should be approached for an ID parade. But Ms. Zandi Khumalo was interacting with me and the prosecution. So there was that communication and consultation that was taking place. But insofar as utilizing her as a witness in the identification parade, there was a decision taken that she should not participate or approach for that purpose, my lord. Not that not to approach it, because there was already engagement. That's why I'm saying the question, the way it's put, it's different where there is no interaction. There was interaction between us, subsequently the prosecution in terms of the consultation, where a position was not taken that she must participate or be one of the people who will participate in the ID parade. That is the only aspect where she was excluded. Not that, I don't know if I'm putting it correctly, my lord, but the point I'm going to is that there was no decision from the prosecution that she should be approach to attend or participate in the ID parade, as it was the position with Mr. Madlala and Mr. Twala, my lord.
Nanjengoba ke kuthwala ke naye ke uMadlala sasikhona isinqumo sokuthi bona ke kuyiwe ke bona ngenjongo noma inhloso ke ID parade. Yebo yena sasikhulumisana naye uZandi Khumalo, kodwa ke asikho isinqumo esabuya ke noma ke sathathwa ke ukuthi ke yena ke sikhulumisana naye ngayo iID parade uZandi Khumalo.
Thank you, Brigadier. You know the reason why I'm going through this exercise and basically wanting to understand you, what is it that you're actually saying? It's because at the end of it all, I'll be standing here, right where I am standing, requesting this court to follow my argument or to find that my argument makes sense. You see?
I understand.
So I will then not be in a position to do that if I don't understand what you are saying. Because part of that argument that is going to come later on is going to touch base a lot on what you're saying. So don't look at me and say, hey, Kantumni Sutini manje. He's taking me from Pilato to Pontius. No, it is because I want to understand you. You are then therefore saying now, it is not that there was a decision that was taken that you should not approach Zandi by the prosecution team. There was no decision that was taken. Actually, it was just a silent thing. Nobody said approach her. Nobody said do not approach her. Is that what you're saying?
No, my lord, maybe my lord, so that is clear, and I hear what Mr.
Yes,
is saying.
yes.
Insofar as Kelly Khumalo, the mother, Zandi Khumalo, and Longwe, Twala, there was no decision from the NPA to say we must approach them for the purpose of the identity parade. That's the simple and narrow of it. Insofar as the two, Mr. Twala and Mr. Madlala, there was a decision taken that you can utilize this one for the purpose of the ID parade. Hence, my lord, when I went to them, they said 50-50 in terms of their recollection, and to that effect they gave statements, my lord. That is that I think I'm trying to be as specific as I can.
Ngokumala naye ke uma Khumalo uZandi Khumalo Kelly Khumalo noLongwe Twala ke asikho isinqumo esathathwa ukuthi akiwe bona mala ne-ID parade. Isithumelo Madlala umthokosisi Twala sasikhona ke ukuthi akiwe ke kubona bekhulunyiswana nabo ke ngayo i-ID parade ingakho ikhona ke nestatement zabo.
Now that sounds much better. At least I now know that with regard to Longwe, Makumalo, Zandi, and Kelly, there was no decision that was taken that they should be approached for a possible identification parade after these accused persons were arrested. That's so.
That is so, my lord.
Thank you. Thank you. Let us pause it there. My lord, I think it's almost time for lunch time. For the long adjournment, it's exactly 13 hours PM. PM stands for post-meridian. It means it's now in the afternoon, my lord. Yes. May I therefore request, in humble submission to God Almighty, my lord, that we can adjourn from now and then we'll be back to that will also serve the purpose to go to give Brigadier Gininda time to go and have a sip from the bottle that is sipping from. As it pleases.